Thank you. My name is Kristy Dube, and I'm the 2020 Penobscot County Teacher of the Year. Author and leading child psychologist and Associate Dean at Yale Medical School, Dr. James Comer, once said that no significant learning can occur without significant relationships. The focus of my speech today is going to be on the purpose of relationships. And although there are some very pressing issues in education today, including chronic absenteeism, racial equality, and bullying, I feel that it all begins with our relationship with our students. We have to know our students to know how to address these pressing issues. As human beings, we all have the need to sustain relationships, build relationships. We all long for a sense of belonging. We all want to belong to a family, to a group, to a classroom. And now more than ever in our world, we need these relationships. We must understand in education that the relationships we build are essential. So I, as a teacher, firmly believe that it is my job to help students exceed their potential, not meet their potential, exceed their potential. And in the path of doing so, I must know them, and I must know them on a very deep level. I must know the things that interest them. I must know the things that they want to learn more about, knowing them on a very deep level, and I'll focus a little bit more on that later. But I want to talk a little bit for a minute about my path to this stage because it's very different. It's very non-traditional than most. I started my career with a business degree from Thomas College, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Having a business degree has made me an amazing educator. Through the business world, I learned about time management, I learned about critical thinking, I learned about collaboration. All of these aspects have really helped me in my classroom, so I really think there's a lot of similarities between the business world and the world of education. The first being that we are both creators. Businesses are creators of products and services and goods. In education, we're also creators. We're creators of the next citizens, the next workforce. So we do have a lot of similarities, but the number one similarity that sticks out to me between the world of business and the world of teaching is that successful businesses are built on strong relationships. Successful schools are built on strong relationships. And we do have that very common ground. So why relationships? Why are the relationships that we possess with our students, with our coworkers, why are they so important? And truthfully, when we think of education as a whole, we think of it as a relationship business, really, is what we're doing. We're teaching students how to relate with themselves, how to relate with us, and how to relate with the greater world. So the amount of time we spend with our students, on average, if you're a classroom elementary teacher, is over 1,000 hours in a school year. So the power that we have in those 1,000 hours to build and sustain positive student-teacher relationships is incredible. I mean, the power we possess to create and ignite a love of learning. We just have so much power that we don't realize that we have. A lot of research by Vygotsky tells us that learning is relational, and when we think about the conversations that we have with our children and the listening and the back and forth, our job as a listening person in their lives could be the only person that really is there for them on a daily basis. So I really think our relational part of our teaching is a part that really is not focused on and probably built up as much as it could be. When I think of strong student-teacher relationships, I think about what research tells us, that these strong relationships have a large and huge impact on student learning and social emotional growth. I want to share a little bit of a personal story. I have an amazing human being that I was wonderfully able to have in my life for many years, and she was my grandmother. And she was just a nurse. She was an amazing people person, and I asked her one day in a conversation, and I grew up in a French community, so we call her Mamé. And I said, Mamé, how do you do it? How do you, everybody loves you, and everybody, is concerned about you, and you're concerned about them. How do you sustain these relationships? And she told me, and I'll translate for you in a minute, but she said, Ma fille, c'est que c'est important to faire le temps. And in French, what she was telling me is, my daughter, or my child, if it's important enough, you'll make the time. And when I think about the aspects of all we have to do in the classroom and how thinly we're spread out, Certainly, time is always a pressing issue for us, but I believe that relationships are worth the time and worth the effort. So how? How do we meet our students in these relationships? How does this happen? I believe that we need to get to know them on a deeper level, and I talked about that in the opening of my speech today. Really letting your students also into your life. You know, it's the funniest thing when you see a student at the grocery store. Like, Mrs. Dube, you don't sleep at school? But getting to know them on a personal level and also letting them into your life, that you have interest, you have needs, and you don't sleep at school. Also being compassionate. A couple of years ago, I had a student who came in late to school and just was apologizing to me about being late. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm just really glad you're here today. And he said, Mrs. Dube, I'm really sorry I'm late today. The police were at my house this morning. And whatever academic plans I had in place for that kid that day, they were gone. My goal in his life was to be the person who was there for him, the person who showed him love and care and attention. So we really need to think about sometimes what our students are going through, and I think a lot of people have addressed that today in some of their speeches. I think we also need to get to know our students outside of the classroom. What are their interests? Attending when there are after-school activities, stopping by and seeing them during lunch. Just seeing them in different environments helps us get to know them on a different level. I think it's also important to make the time in your classroom to build these relationships, providing a place where students feel safe to share their opinions, and building a classroom community where students feel that it's really a safe environment. So also giving meaningful feedback to students around the work, the product that they've brought to your classroom, and setting students up for success. And I think about this, I have a quote near my desk every day, and it reads like this: when you cut it for me, when you write it for me, all I learn is that you can do it better than me. And think about that. I know sometimes we're really in a good effort to help our students, but sometimes by doing so many things for them, we send them a really wrong message. So my interest in this topic kind of prompted me to interview some students that I've had in the past about a teacher that really stands out, and what is it about the relationship with that teacher that really stood out to them. Some of the things they responded were warmth, empathy, listening, truly listening with her heart, time, took the time to be in my life, and helped me reach to potentials that I didn't think that I could reach. So some very valuable answers there about what students perceived as this powerful teacher in their life did for them. In closing today, I have a challenge for all of you today. Whether it be a personal, professional, or business relationship, I challenge you today to take more time, more effort,